Without further ado, here is Paul Pelland, Writing for a Cure for MS. Thank you, Paul, for coming.
Everybody see that? Oh, be in the way. All right. Well, first of all, thanks everybody for coming out, and I'm sorry I'm late. For some reason I had my East Coast time of noon, but it's not East Coast here, is it? So, my apologies, but thank you all for coming out. I'm great to see so many people, and Aerostich is and Andy and the whole crew have been such great supporters of mine for the past 11 years that I've been doing this, and even before that, when I did a lot of iron butt stuff, they were always there with the right gear, which is most important, but also you know, a great company that supports riders and the motorcycle industry. So when Andy asked me to come out, absolutely no problem, I'll be here. Might be a little late, but I'll be here. I did have a little video, but I think we'll just skip that. So, stuff breaks, right? I think I broke 2 things this week on the bike that I've got to fix when I get home. But knowing what to carry and how to make temporary repairs on the road is an extremely important skill if you ever want to explore the world by motorcycle. The more that you know, the farther you can go. Over the years, I've fine-tuned a traveling strategy that has helped me avoid tow trucks and ending the adventure that I'm on. I hope you learned, something new today that might help you keep your next road trip on the road. I consider myself an avid motorcyclist, and because I don't have a real job, I guess you could call me a professional motorcycle rider. I know that might sound glamorous, but once you've had the experience of trying to heat a hot pocket, a frozen hot pocket with a blow dryer at 2 o'clock in the morning in a motel that sells hot pockets but doesn't have a microwave, you might change your mind. I heated up like a 1/4 inch, I nibbled it, heated up another 1/4 inch, nibbled it. Glamorous? No. But certainly adventurous. Yesterday I was in Sturgis. A month ago I rode out to Flagstaff, then to upstate New York, then to Seattle, and then back to New Hampshire. Today I'm in Duluth, tomorrow I'll be in Montreal, and in a week I ride back out west to Denver. As you can guess, riding big miles, often in extreme temperatures with destination deadlines, I'm supposed to be on time when I go places, it takes a fair amount of preparation. I have to completely trust my motorcycle, my gear, and my equipment because I don't have the luxury of time. I don't have a caravan of cash following me or a support crew or support crew. If something goes wrong while I'm on the road, I need to be able to fix it fast and get back on the road to get to the destination where I'm supposed to be at. A manufacturer's guarantee for life promise does you no good when you're on the road. I've had so many electric glove failures over the years. I now carry 2 spare pairs of electric heated gloves when I ride through the winter months. I also carry the tools that I need to be able to repair the glove that broke once I get to a warm hotel room that night. I've had so many issues with electrical stuff that I carry everything I need. I also carry, in the winter, I carry a spare heated jacket liner too, because I've had those fail. Extra controllers, wires, all those things that I've found over the years tend to be the more of the issues. I try to carry at least a spare one of those. There's nothing worse than riding in 10-degree weather and your electric gear isn't working. It's pretty bad. Sometimes you don't think it's working, but when you unplug, you realize it was working. Like cold fingers, cold feet, it's just miserable. And motorcycles are not supposed to be miserable, are they? I break a lot of stuff. I wear out a lot of stuff. I'm a little rough on my gear, too. Being confidently prepared to take care of your bike and your gear, should you have a problem when traveling, it allows you the freedom to explore some of the more rural and isolated areas of our beautiful world. Riding is therapeutic, and I will argue that riding long distances also has a medicinal value. I actually have a doctor's prescription to ride my motorcycle as part of treating my chronic illness. It did take a little doctor shopping to get that, but 23 years ago now, I began riding further and further from my home. I joined the Iron Butt Association. How many members Iron Butt Association here? A couple, yep. And I entered many of the endurance competitions that they hold across the country, including the Super Bowl of long distance riding, which is the Iron Butt Rally. Anybody hear of the Iron Butt Rally? Yeah. Anybody here ever entered the Iron Butt Rally? Anybody here ever finished the Iron Butt Rally? It's 11 days, 11,000 miles is what the average rider will do. I was lucky enough to ride in 2 Iron Butt rallies, but unfortunately, right in the middle of the 2003 rally, I experienced some neurological issues, and shortly after, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I retired from riding for many years. I expected the disease and the progression to get worse and would put me in a wheelchair, or worse. Well, after about 7 years, I got tired of waiting. And now it's been 11 years, I decided to fight back. And the only way I know how, which is on 2 wheels. My goal is to document 1 million miles by motorcycle, raising awareness and funds for multiple sclerosis. Since I started, I'm about 600,000 miles that I've documented going to MS events, sharing my story to other MS patients across the country, trying to encourage them to find something that they love in life and to make that more important than their disease. And that's what I've done with motorcycling. I've also set a few silly world records while raising awareness, and a little over $300,000 I've raised for MS charities for research and educational programs. Most of my MS symptoms have been cognitive. Mental fatigue, multitasking issues, impaired planning, decision making, short-term memory loss. Those are all things that have affected me over the years from MS. Despite the hours that I've spent preparing presentations like this, I have no idea what slide comes next. Thankfully, we have technology today that helps us along, and like my iPad here that can assist me and others to remember and keep on track of important tasks. Of course, we have to remember to use them too. The phones have come a long way with it, being able to record or remind us of things. I use the record function and stuff like that on my phone all the time when I'm riding. So I'm here today to tell you, or to share with you, some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years, and maybe take a closer look at what all that junk is in my trunk. I was not a Navy SEAL. I was not a Marine or Army Ranger. Hell, my parents wouldn't even let me join the Boy Scouts. I learned how to be prepared because I don't like to push, and I really hate walking home. I don't claim to be an expert world traveler or have all the answers, but I do spend between 50 and 80,000 miles a year on the road. How many people rode their motorcycle here today? That's pretty good. Who rode the furthest distance? Do I have a 500 mile? 400?
I went from Toronto to Vermont and then here, so it's about 2,100 miles.
2,100 miles. What kind of bike you riding?
K1600 BMW.
Okay, I have a question for you. Does that have a key fob?
Does?
Does it have a regular key
Yeah.
to start it if you had to? Or just for locking the luggage?
Don't start it.
All right. Where's your spare fob?
Don't have it.
Story here.
So if the fob stops working, do you have a code you can punch in or something? Another way to get the bike started?
There is, I just have to make some phone calls to get it.
Provided your phone's not locked in the trunk. Well, if traditionally you get 2 keys with your bike, and a lot of people will travel with the 1 key, and the spare key is home in the safe. Well, that does you no good when you're in the middle of nowhere and you don't have your spare key. Motorcycles have millions of places to tuck or zip tie a spare key on the frame or something like that. It's always a good idea to carry a spare with you, or have some secondary way to start that bike. Because I don't know about you, but half the time I get on the bike, got my gloves on, and it's like, oh shoot, where's the key? And then you take your gloves off, get your key out of your pocket or whatever. But keys do get lost, and having a spare key is a real simple thing to prevent kind of a major problem when you get stuck somewhere and you've lost your key. Anybody going on a long trip this summer or planning a trip this fall? Decent long trip? Great. How many of you consider a cell phone and your credit card as your toolkit for your motorcycle? Winging it, right? Well, that's what I call roadside roulette. Trust me, all it takes is one time of, is that me?
That's you.
What's it doing?
It's trying to bring you somewhere. Navigating you.
We're gonna get you to Aerostich.
That's Siri. Hold on.
Talking about technology.
In 100 feet, turn left onto South 18th Avenue West.
I think I can shut that off. That's fun.
So you're still getting here, apparently.
That's how I got here. Sorry about that. Roadside roulette, yeah. So trust me, one time finding yourself in a dingy truck stop about 2:30 in the morning, agreeing to trade, doing weird stuff, for just so you and your broken motorcycle can get a ride into town. Bubba don't take credit cards, Bubba don't take Bitcoin or Venmo, trust me. Cell phone coverage is getting better, but yesterday I was in Custer State Park and there was no cell service anywhere in there. I've ridden the Blue Ridge Park where you can ride 90% of it and the cell phone's not going to work, or very, very limited service. Plenty of places in this country you can ride all day long and not have cell phone service. So it's important to have a secondary way. How many people have towing service with their bike? A couple people. Have you ever used it? Have you had to use it? You might be surprised. Anybody else have to use a towing service? A couple times, yep. Were they on time? Were they able to come and get you? Did they help you out?
Actually, yeah, it was on the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Yep.
My phone worked.
Yeah, that's good. And then you're able to get somebody. That's good. There's a lot of roadside assistance that comes with your bike insurance and stuff like that, and it's $10 or $20 a month. Some of those plans are worth about $10 a month, a year. I've had plenty of experience with family and friends, and having motorcycle needing a tow, and calling their emergency service only to find that it's just a service that calls another place, and sometimes they don't work on weekends, sometimes they can't come out for 6 or 7 hours, sometimes they come out with a wrecker and a hook, and they want to pick your bike up with a hook. A lot of times they say, we don't have anybody available that can come and help you. There are better plans. and, depending on where you live and stuff like that, but if you have a plan, one of the things that I do recommend is someday when you're not broken down, but you pretend you are, and call them up and just see how, if it even works, if they can come get you, whatever. You can call it off once they set somebody to come and get you, but you'll be surprised a lot of times you can't get a tow, and you may not, or they'll tell you somewhere that's not helpful, or it's very limited, or it's hours before they can come out. They don't have the right vehicle. It's not as good as it sounds. It's not like the AAA with a car where there's so many tow trucks waiting for that call. With motorcycling, it's tough. So I do recommend trying to find out or talk to other people that have the same service or the service that they're happy with. I'm currently using Allstate, which has an RV rider. It's about $100 a year. And I have used it. They did tow me out of Montana, 250-mile tow, and they cover the whole thing. So I also have called them, and because I was less than 100 miles from my house, they gave me some trouble about that. So it's really for traveling away from home. But again, there's lots of plans out there. I also have one with my insurance. I've never used that one, but I know that one is inexpensive and probably wouldn't be able to get me when I needed them to. Now we all know there are two kinds of riders, right? Those that have broken down and those that will break down. Depending on what is or isn't in your saddlebag, may determine whether your breakdown means that your ride is over or you're just experiencing what I call a side trip adventure. Now, a more serious breakdown might call for a bit more mechanical experience, a little luck, maybe even a small prayer. As an example, finding this broken push rod while in a dirt parking lot in the middle of Wyoming, I mean, this would easily justify a tow truck ride, right? And a pretty good bet it would be the end of my trip. But it wasn't. I decided to JB weld the two pieces of push rod together, and that pasted together push rod got me 50 miles into the next town, where I found a hardware store, and I was able to fabricate a brand new push rod from a long drill bit. Now, the drill bit push rod might be considered an extreme case, but I had pretty good luck fixing other stuff along the road, on the road as well. I've owned 46 motorcycles. I've ridden somewhere over 1 million miles, not sure exactly how many, but I didn't start counting until well into my motorcycle riding career. I've had to seek alternate transportation to get home only twice my entire life. Other times I was towed, but I was towed off the road where I was able to repair the bike and get back on my trip where it didn't stop the trip. And staying off the wagon, as I call it, can be made easier by following some guidelines. You should be prepared for a variety of possible issues on the road. Be familiar with your bike, be familiar with your gear, your tools. Keep important information that you need in multiple locations. Give that stock toolkit that comes with the bike, give it to your grandkids to play with. There's nothing in there usable. They still give you a flat blade screwdriver. How many flat blade screws are there on a motorcycle today? Carry some repair products with you and know how to use them. A roll of duct tape, it does not make a good hammer, but a 22 millimeter wrench turned sideways makes a great hammer. So let's say we're planning a couple-week trip across the country. We're all going on a trip. what are some repair products? What are some items that we can bring to fix stuff along the way to be prepared for a mechanical failure? What are some things that we should carry? Mechanical failure on the bike.
Yellow bond. Free bond, anything? Sealant.
A sealant,
Yeah.
some type of glue or sealant.
Free bond or yellow
Hot
bond.
melt glue. Hot melt glue.
Zip ties.
JB Weld, right? You need to fix a push rod.
Tie wire.
Wire, zip ties, duct tape. Those are all great things to carry. JB Weld, plastic epoxy, 3-minute epoxy. You can fix it, cracked plastic, a case. Shoe goo, anybody know what shoe goo is? It's a liquid rubber, great stuff. I was in the shoe business for 20 years, so all my friends and family got a tube of shoe goo for Christmas. You can fix anything with it. Flat tires can be patched and plugged. Rims can be banged back into shape. Kickstands can be mended. Clutch levers. All these things can be fixed on the road without having to find a dealer or somebody else to work on the bike. Vice grips can be used to pull a shift lever or a broken shift lever to pull a cable. Even you could put vice grips on a broken shifter. Lots of different things that you can do along the road. Electrical issues, failures happen. High speed, vibration, temperature, and weather. If you're from the Northeast, like I am, we get so much cold and salt in the roads, and all that stuff just totally wrecks electrical connections on a bike. In my experience, electrical failures are the biggest thing that happen on the motorcycle. And if you ride a lot, you're going to have electrical problems. This is a picture of the harness that feeds a battery from the alternator. So it's a big, thick red wire there, and it melted 4 o'clock in the morning. All my problems seem to happen in the early mornings. In Georgia, on my way to Daytona, quite a few years ago. And in this case, the wires were actually too thick to get a secure joint with my butane soldering iron that I carry with me. So what I ended up doing, or how would you fix this? How's that? How would you fix that?
Cut everything apart and make solder connections or quick
I tried to solder it. The problem was that the wire was so thick it wouldn't even melt I couldn't get it to melt. Well, what I did was, I figured it got hot once. So I put the wires together and I wrapped the silicone around it. I wrapped the solder around the 2 wires, and then I silicone wrapped it and let it heat up itself and melted the solder. When that bike started, the voltmeter had a voltmeter on it. It went to 14 and a half, and it had never gone to 14 and a half with the connector. So it was a better connection with my half-ass fix than it did with the originally. And as far as I know, that bike is still riding around with that fix because I traded it in. Important information that you need should be saved. Everybody has a smartphone. Anybody here not have a smartphone, semi-smartphone? Right. We all have smartphones. So important information should be saved on your smartphone. If you travel with a laptop or an iPad, also you should put your important information in the cloud somewhere, so that you could access it from a hotel computer. Or you could call home and say, hey, Joe, what's that credit card number, whatever, I lost my wallet. Can you give me those credit card numbers? Have all the information that you want to have with you in multiple places. You can lose your wallet. Your bike can get stolen. Your luggage can get stolen, whatever. If you have a way to access it from the road, it's good to have multiple options. You should have a PDF of the parts manual of your motorcycle. Do you know why the parts manual is so important to have?
See, how stuff goes back together if you take it apart.
Exactly. It shows every screw. If you're underneath the bike and you're trying to take a panel off or something, that'll show you there's one more screw in the back over there. So the parts manual, the blow up of all the pieces, how they go together, how they come apart is great. Also, today the service manuals are available. Most bikes, you can get them for free. Somebody's already put it on the web somewhere. But download it just in case you don't have access to the web when you break down. But the service manual, the owner's manual that comes with the bike, you may have read it, may not have read it, but that's a good one to keep on the bike because should you need to start a fire, you can rip pages out of it and start a fire. I snap a picture of all my things, my GPS, my tracker, plug gun kit, all those things. I snap a picture of the instructions, how to use it, or how to set it up, or even cameras and stuff like that. Just take a picture of the instructions, put that on your phone, put that up in the cloud. You not want to be looking for a manual or something. Have a manual for everything you use. I've got a Bluetooth headset. Sometimes I forget what the buttons do. And I have it all on my phone. I can bring it right up and go, oh, that button is to reset the Bluetooth connection or whatever. But I have all those directions on the phone and in that file in the cloud. Every single thing in my wallet, from my driver's license to every credit card to insurance cards, all that stuff, I have a picture, front and back. You can rent a hotel room if you've got a picture of your credit card. Not everybody memorizes their credit card numbers. I know some people do. But I have a picture of both sides of everything in my wallet, on my phone and in the cloud. Medications, I take a bunch of medications. I have all those prescriptions. My eyeglass prescription, a copy of that. All of that is on one file. And every time I get a new credit card, I just go in there and make sure it's in there. So if you need any of that, you have it with you on the road. Of course, I just talked about that, all of your medications and stuff like that, another good thing to have with you. The more that you understand about the systems on your motorcycle, the less chance that you're going to need to call a tow truck. We all know how to lift the hood of our car, check the oil, or put in washer fluid. We should probably know a few things about our motorcycle as well, where the battery is, how to get to it, what tools that you're carrying and where they're located. Because I deal with cognitive issues a lot, and also extreme fatigue I get, confusion, memory loss. It's very important for me to keep everything I pack in the same location on my motorcycle. And when I get a new motorcycle, I put everything in the same places. So I know where the stuff is. That's not a bad idea for people without holes in their brain as well to do. When you need it, it's going to be in a situation that you may not be in a safe location. It may be dark, maybe raining. So knowing where stuff is important. Bikes are getting complicated, so we all need to know our limitations too. Not everybody is Joe Mechanic or MacGyver or whatever, but the more that you do know about the bike and how it comes apart and goes together, the less chance you'll have of having to call a tow truck. But if the option is to be stranded for a week waiting for someone at the dealer to look at your stalling issue, or maybe whacking your fuel pump with a hammer with a big stick, is there really a choice? It's all right to be MacGyver once in a while. If you made the decision to carry tools, it's important to know how to use them and that they work. The best way to build a proper toolkit for any motorcycle is to take a rainy day in January, grab yourself an adult beverage and park yourself in the garage and start taking apart your motorcycle. Or at least, check all the fasteners. Make sure you've got tools to take both wheels off, or adjust the chain, or get the seat off, get to the battery, be able to take the plastic panels off. Make sure you have those tools and put those tools aside. Those are your tools you want to carry with you. Spark plugs, change the oil, anything like that you may need to do while on the road. Stop building yourself a real toolkit. And what I do is anytime that I work on my bike at home, I'll be home in a couple days, I've got to change the wheel, tires, and I'll probably do an oil change and stuff. I only use the tools on my bike. I don't use the tools in my rollaway. I use the toolkit that I built. That way there, I know if there's a part missing, or if I really needed that size wrench, I didn't have one. So now I get one, and I put it in there. And that's my toolkit. And I've got a sizable toolkit, but everything in there is particular to that bike. And anything that, like I don't carry a torque wrench or anything like that, but I have the stuff that I need to take things apart and put it back together. Sometimes, like the spark plugs on this bike, you need a 3-inch extension and then 2 swivels to get to it. Well, I have it on the bike because the spark plug wrench does you no good if you can't get to it, So, but that's that's a great trick, is to just keep every time you work on the bike, to use your tools that you set it up. The other thing to do is when you've got that bike apart and you've taken off that panel with 400 fasteners or whatever, take a picture of it, or take a picture of the wiring underneath, so you remember where you attach stuff. When I add accessories, I keep a record. I don't always take a picture, but on my phone it reminds me what accessory, where the fuses are, what I tapped into for each accessory. So right now my GPS is on the fritz, so it keeps telling me it's lost power. And so I don't remember what fuse I put that to. Sometimes I'll label them. Lately I've been labeling them, but I have it written down. And that way there, as I'm riding, I can do a little diagnostics, and oh yeah, that's tied in with the heated grips. Oh, my heated grips working? Oh, they're working. So it's somewhere past that. I can kind of figure it out, and when I take it apart, it's right there. But I wouldn't remember if I didn't write it down. How many people carry a tire plug gun kit? Awesome, very good. And what do you use to inflate the tire once you've patched your flat?
Aerostich micro compressor.
Bingo! It's this big. It's perfect.
Ancient BMW hand pump.
Half pump, yeah. Some people carry the steel 2 cartridges, and I would suggest, again, someday when you're bored, take the air out of your tires and see how many cartridges it takes to blow up that tire so that you'd be safe to ride. You'd be surprised. Sometimes it's a lot more than you think. I think the pumps are great. Having a 12-volt pump is perfect. There are a lot of compressors today that you can get that are battery operated, the rechargeable ones. I'm testing one out. I don't trust it yet, so I still always carry the Aerostich one is in my with my tire irons and stuff. But I've been testing this other one out because I don't know if it will reseal the bead. That's the big thing. You've got to get enough air in there to pop the bead back into the thing. So I don't trust it yet, but they've come a long way with those small compressors. But they have to have the volume too. So, but it's a good idea to practice with it because you don't want to be on the side of the road with trucks whizzing by trying to remember how to run that damn plug kit. Or, where's the other piece for the compressor? Or, geez, I got an SAE connector, but I don't have an SAE connector on the bike. I got coax. Now you got to cut wires just to use your pump that you... Make sure it works, test it at home. Plug, stick a knife in your neighbor's car tire and then plug it and see if it works. Or the wheelbarrow, or your spouse if you're having a fight. A couple of knife holes and then see if the plug gun kit works. If you have tube tires, well, you should have a spare tube or at least a way to repair that. Valve stem cores, these tiny little things that when you get your tires done, the mechanic takes it out, he puts it over there, and then when he picks it up, he just picks up whatever one he sees. It could be a 30-year-old valve core, puts it back in, and there you go. That little thing can create such a problem on the road. So carry a spare. They're small little pieces.
I want to add something quick on that.
Yeah.
Change your valve stems every time you put new tires on. Twice over the years I've had valve stem failure.
It is, valve stems are definitely an overlooked thing.
And that's the rubber ones, the metal ones, you're fine, but,
Yeah, well, even the metal ones have a little rubber seal, but yeah, checking them for sure, make sure that, because they crack and they get, when you're trying to, it doesn't seem like any gas station air chuck will fit it. You got to bend it around or get under there, so they get a lot of wear and tear. That's a very good point. A few years ago, I started carrying the Colby emergency valve stem. It's right there at the bottom. Anybody seen those? So that is a replaceable valve stem from the outside. So you have a valve stem that breaks off or a crack that's leaking. You just you cut it off, poke the little piece inside. That valve stem goes in the hole, and you tighten it, and it pulls the metal collar on the inside, and it squishes the two rubbers against the metal, and then you take off that twisty thing, and now you have a valve stem, a new valve stem, without having to disassemble the wheel, the tire. And they're like $20. There's a couple different sizes, but I know of some people that actually use those as their standard valve stem. That's what they use. But you can fix it from the outside. A valve stem, you've got to take the tire apart and go from the other side. So short money, and it's well worth it. Everything that I'm going to show you is on my website, so you don't have to write stuff down. I have a page called I think it's Fix It. It's LongHaulPaul.com/fix. Somebody could check that, but it's not IMS because the IMS show is all done. I thought I had changed that slide. Sorry about that. But yeah, the different things, or talk to me later, and I'm just going to show some of the stuff anyway. We talked about spare key, but also some motorcycles are prone to causing problems. Like this bike had an issue where the fuel pumps or the fuel filters were swelling up, causing an issue. And that's not a Yamaha, just so you know. And so I had carried a spare one. If your motorcycle has one headlight, I sure hope you have a spare bulb with you, or even two. I mean, a lot of times with the two headlights, one bulb will go out, you replace it, and 2 days later the other bulb goes out because too much electricity was going through it when that first one went out. So at least you have one. But when I had a bike with bulbs, I would carry two bulbs because it's not always convenient to find an auto parts store, and it's always at night when you notice it. I carry spare batteries for things that are battery powered. I have a couple of things on the bike now that are, AA, AAA. In fact, my tracker's not working. My wife yesterday said, "Where the heck are you?" Because she checks it once in a while just to see that I'm still moving. And she says, "Yeah, it hasn't moved from." She says, "You're still in Sturgis." I'm like, "God, I hope not." But I got to replace it. But I have spares with me. Not that you can't find AA's anywhere, but when you stop at a picnic table or something somewhere and you just want to swap it out, you don't have to go look for a store. Fuses, carrying spare fuses. Today there's so many different types of fuses. The little micro ones, then there's the mini ones, there's short ones. Just look what your bike has and make sure there's a couple of spares of the bigger ones. Smaller ones too, but you can always put a bigger one in a small hole. The factory doesn't tell you to do that. But in an emergency, you put a 10 amp in it with a 2 amp loop to get you back. What else? Spare cables, for my phone and things like that. I always carry spares. They break. The cables are cheap. They're made for 3 cents a piece. So having a spare cable for your GPS, having a spare cable for your phone, that type of thing. It's short money, and it's great to have extras. And I loan out a lot of stuff. I'm at the truck all week at Sturgis, the Yamaha truck, and somebody come by and go, "Oh, my phone, I forgot to charge my phone last night." I go, "Okay, here's a brick. What size charger you need? What cord? I have USB-C, D, L, MLP." And there you go. And at night I just recharge it. And, but being able to have stuff that people need is another reason to carry extra stuff. Now, I'll admit the manufacturers do not recommend most of the quick fixes that I'm gonna bring up now. But with all due respect, BMW, Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Ducati, Triumph, did I miss anybody? Harley Davidson, we won't even get into Euro. Moto Guzzi, Aprilia, I mean, they're not gonna be with you when you break down.
No.
They're not even gonna answer the phone, when you're stuck in nowhere, Montana, with a dust storm picking up, a half an hour before dark, on a Saturday night, when your headlight harness melts or gets chafed, smokes a few wires or whatever. They're not gonna be there, right? So, you could wait a few hours for that tow truck that may or may not come to tow you into town, where there may or may not be a motorcycle dealer that can help you, who might be open on a Monday, probably not. So now you're 3 days out. I guarantee you they're not going to have that wiring harness piece you need. And you're looking at, vacation over, trip of a lifetime, nightmare, divorce, filed. And you're still in the middle of nowhere, Montana. So the alternate is to try and fix the best way you can and to continue enjoying your trip. Yes, it is LongHaulPaul.com.fix. This one has the right. Yeah, just /fix from my website. We'll get you a list of the stuff that I'll talk about. So what are some of the basic materials motorcycles are made out of? Metal, steel, aluminum, wood, no wood, plastic, rubber. All right. It'd be silly to travel with a CNC machine, right? Or a 3D printer, but that'd be kind of cool. But there are a few items that we can carry with us that can absolutely save the day in an emergency. Tie-down straps, zip ties, duct tape can all be used to hold things together. You know a trick with duct tape? Take a roll of duct tape, and it takes up a lot of space, right? Anybody know how to make it smaller? Besides emptying it?
Wrap it around a tool.
Wrap it around, you can do that. I do that with a couple of different types of tape. I wrap it around another tool. But if you cut out the cardboard middle and just flatten it, put your kickstand on it, just flatten that roll, it becomes about this big. Just cut out the cardboard. You don't need to, nobody ever uses that last 6 inches piece of duct tape anyway. Adhesives and epoxies can even make permanent repairs on the road. Even my granddaughter knows duct tape and what she can do with it. I carry a variety of electrical repair items like a butane soldering iron. I do carry that, and I do carry a little spare butane because it does leak out. I carry solder. I carry spare wires, a couple of spare plugs, heat shrink, spade, butt connectors, a couple of extra relays that work on the bike, switches, and all of those things I've used one time or another. On some bike, I've had to use just about everything that I carry with me. Silicone self-fusing tape. Everybody know what this is? This stuff here? It's a stretchy silicone. Comes in a roll like this. You don't need any knife to open it. This is awesome stuff. I carry this. I use this more than I use electrical tape today. Glasses. And you just peel it off. It's so easy to peel off. Oh, I can't see it. So, anyway. It just has a plastic, I can't see. Peel that off. It's not stuck to it, it's just cling, it clings to it. Yeah, the clear. Yeah. It's really weird. All right. just a cling wrap. But this stuff here, basically what you do is you just stretch it, and then you can use it on anything. I think it's fuel resistant, waterproof. I think it's up to 600 degrees, 500 degrees, so you can use it for over a coil wire that's broken. You can use it. I've actually used it for O-rings. You can just wrap it and then roll it, and it becomes an O-ring. You can use that on a fuel rail, something like that. You need an emergency wedding ring. All kinds of things. It's really cool. You want to put two hoses together, break a hose. That's the silicone tape on that. I'll just pass that around. It's great stuff. You can use it for anything that you would use electrical tape. Electrical tape, you know, it gets hot, gets sticky, it falls off, it doesn't always stay. This stuff, it stays. I mean, it's waterproof, great material. And like I said, you can use it on anything electrical or fuel leaks, gas, you know, that type of stuff. Let's see. Sugru, all right? When I say this stuff is great, it's not just because I was in the shoe business. I've used Sugru to repair a broken valve stem. What I did here was I cut this, I made a cut, a jagged cut, not a straight cut, with a knife, just kind of jagged it from almost 3/4 of the way around this valve stem. And I didn't touch anything on the inside, so I'm pretending that I'm just seeing the outside of it. But I Sugru'd it, and the only thing with that, it would take about 12 hours for it to cure, but that would hold. Here's a tire, it's from a wheelchair. I did not take this off somebody's wheelchair. I put a gash, not just you can probably see the light through it. So I put a gash in it, and then I used the Sugru to seal it. And it turns into liquid rubber. Here's another one. This one there's a hole right through it, like a bullet hole. Not that I get shot at a lot, but that's Sugru again, just patching it. So a simple tube, you know, in your toolkit can do quite a bit of stuff. You can use Sugru on shoes. You can use it if you rip a zipper or you have a seam ripped on your jacket. You can or cut. You can Sugru it, and it'll dry overnight, and it'll be flexible. Yes, sir.
Sugru, I remember from way back, it was more like hardened contact cement. Has it changed its chemistry? I mean, I know you can get like rubber liquid rubber in a can now.
So like a barge cement or something, where you like a contact cement.
Yeah, that's what the old Sugru was like. It got really hard. It wasn't flexible with my shoes, so I didn't use it anymore.
I don't know. I mean, this is at least 40 years it's been this that I know of.
Okay.
Ever since I got out of prison. That's where I learned to be sure.
Do you happen to know if Sugru is fuel and waterproof?
I do know that they have a marine version, and it's all made by the same Goop company, Amazing Goop, or if you go to like Home Depot, there's a section where the glues are and the paints. There's 3 or 4 different ones. There's a new one called, that was actually Sugru. I think it's like S 6000 or something. It's the same kind of stuff. It's a liquid rubber, but that one is UV. I don't know if it's fuel resistant. That one I don't know. I wouldn't use it for a gas tank. I would probably use the JB Weld has one that's fuel.
Yeah, the epoxy.
Yeah, that's what I would probably use on something like that. Sugru, I've used, like I said, I've used it for over 40 years. I used it I did use it on a water pump on a 78 Ford Granada. My buddy's car was leaking. We took the water pump off and probably couldn't afford a gasket or didn't realize they actually made gaskets. And when I glued it back into place and it helped. I also, when I was in high school, I worked at this shop and the owner asked me to change the toilet seat. And you know the bolts get all rusty and corroded for 20 years, so I was trying to chip them away and I cracked the whole bowl of the toilet. And I thought I was going to get fired. So I Sugru'd the bowl of the toilet back together, the ceramic, all in place. It never leaked and they never found out. Over the last couple of years, I found some new products that have emerged, which are really great for making roadside repairs. Sugru, has anybody ever heard of that stuff? It comes like this, and it's, what have you used it for? Have you used it for anything?
I don't use it for anything, but I know.
It's like a little piece of like chewing gum that somebody left after they've already chewed it. That's what it looks like. And you mold it, and you can use it for just about anything. What do I have here that I did with the? I used it on this. So it's actually my camera on my helmet. It's GoPro, and it's waterproof as long as you're not charging it. And when you're charging it, you open the door. It's no longer waterproof. Well, I use this stuff to waterproof a plug into leaving it open, and it's been on my helmet for 5 years. And it doesn't, obviously, it didn't ruin it. Here's a couple of just little repairs or things that I've done. This is a connector end of whatever it wants to be, but I've remade that end with the stuff. You just mold it and shape it, and it becomes very flexible. You can use it to repair wires. You can waterproof stuff with it. Great little. It's like Play-Doh when you roll it, and it's non-toxic and all that stuff. Tons of uses. Fixed cameras, phones, your riding gear, helmet, boots, even all kinds of things. You can use that.
So quick Google search on Sugru. It's water resistant, but gasoline will dilute it. That's what it says. So it'll say that when you get through it, how long before, whatever, it doesn't say.
Thank you. Solution. Nobody likes to be diluted. Polluted, maybe. The next thing, which is I found recently, is really cool. It's called Form Card. Anybody know what these are? So these are basically credit card, a little thicker than a credit card shaped piece of plastic. And it is moldable. Simply drop this in a cup of hot water and it turns to taffy. And you pull it out with a spoon and you can shape it into just about anything you want. This is basically, it was a flat piece of metal. Both ends look like that. And I took a couple of one card, I think, and I just shaped it around here, and I made a shift lever. So you got a broken shift lever. I just made a brand new one with a hot cup of coffee. This here is, and when it cools, it becomes like nylon. And if you heat it up enough, it'll bond to a lot of different types of plastics. It is non-toxic and all that fun stuff too. Here's another thing. This is basically, I pretended that my clutch lever, brake lever broke. And what's left was, the little metal piece that's still stuck in the pivot. So I took a washer, just a metal washer, to pretend that that's all I had left. And this is just that form card, probably 2 of them. But you can feel how strong that is. You could use that as a clutch lever. This is a water bottle cap that I put in a flathead screwdriver bit. And just, if you wanted to make a tool or something. This, I think I have a picture of this. Yeah, so this is a coil. And it didn't actually break, but I broke it on purpose to the boss that bolts it into the head. And I took that former card and I made a new boss. I did put it on my my little grinder at home to make it fancy and look. But basically, this is that coil that I remade somewhere on the road to be able to, you know, re-bolt that coil back into the head. You know, it's probably not going to be as strong as the original for sure. It may not last forever, but it will last until Amazon can bring you a new one in a couple of days. So with a few tools and some ingenuity and the right mindset, nothing is impossible. About 24 years ago, I think, I entered my very first multi-day rally, the Butt Light, which is out of Minnesota here, right? And anybody know the Team Strange? Yeah, so they put on the Butt Light 7-day rally. My very first ever rally. Halfway through, my trusty BMW blew up, but instead of flying home in about an hour, I converted this Honda Hurricane into a long-distance touring machine. A bit messy on the forklift job, but this jury-rigged eyesore I bought with a credit card in Montana got me and my gear back to the finish line 3,500 miles later. The best advice that I can give roadside repairs is think outside the box. Look around. Look what's around you, because there are solutions to problems everywhere. Sidewalk makes a great sanding block. You need to grind something down. The sidewalk. A Slim Jim beef stick, right? Every single gas station in the United States has Slim Jims. I know because I checked. You could use a Slim Jim as a stylus on your phone. Did you know that? Even in below freezing temperature. You can also use a Slim Jim to lubricate a shift lever, shift pivot point, or anything else. Just don't eat them. French fries work great for lubing up stuff too. Discarded piece of bubble gum makes a great way to keep that air vent from flapping on your helmet, making all noise. Just stick a piece of used gum in that. A screwdriver often does make a great pry bar. I don't care what they say. Your riding jacket rolled up makes a good way to get the bike up on a center stand when they've got a flat tire, because you can't get the bike up when there's no air in the tire. A lot of bikes. Well, find something to put under that tire, roll it up on it, and get it up. I've used my helmet under the front of the bike to hold it up to get the front wheel off. And yes, it is possible to avoid spoiling an adventure by making a push rod out of drill bits that you found in a hardware store. It was a long, like a wood spade drill bit, and I had to make it, well, it's a Euro, so they're like, yeah, about that long is what you need. That's the measurement, so it wasn't too hard, but that bike finished the rally with a drill bit push rod.
How'd you cut it?
So I was going to rent the head angle grinder, and as I'm at the counter, I looked, the door was halfway open to the back room. They had a grinder in there, a bench grinder. And the lady's like, no, I can't leave back there. Can't let any, customers can't use that. I think I probably talked to her for 10 minutes trying to convince her, I cut my arm off, I grabbed the bloody limb and run out. But she finally let me use it, so that's how I was able to cut it and then shape it. And yeah, it was just, it was crazy. But because I feel prepared for whatever issues may arise, I have no concerns riding across the country on a moment's notice. I hope you realize that, you can do the same thing with a little knowledge, a decent tool, and some repair items. If something does happen, somewhere deep in the nooks and crannies of your saddlebag, may be just the perfect solution. Just remember, sometimes what looks like the end of your ride is just the beginning of an unbelievable adventure. Thank you very much. Like I said, you can find all the stuff I talked about with links to Amazon or whatever from LongHaulPaul.com/fix. And you can also track me live, except today because my tracker's not working. Contact me through my website. I have Facebook, YouTube, And growing my social media helps a lot with getting sponsorships and things and allowing me to stay on the road. Yes, sir.
2 questions. One, do you take donations?
I do, yeah.
Okay, and what's the best way to do that?
You can go online, right on my website, there's a donate button.
Okay.
Or, would be really cool too, is right now, I run a fundraiser every year at this time of year. It starts September 1st, it runs through October 20th, called the MS 5000. And what it is riders from all over the country sign up. You get a t-shirt and sticker and that type of thing, but it's like the MS Walk. And the idea is to ride as many miles as you can from September 1st to October 20th, over 50 days. And you get a point for every mile you ride, and you get 10 points for every dollar that you raise. And the goal is to reach 5,000 points.
2 more questions. One, are you periodically examined by physicians and tested to the progression of your MS? And are they making any conclusions based on your level of motorcycling activity, balance activities, all that you're doing? What is the medical?
I'm lucky enough that my disease has not progressed in 18 years now. My MRI showed 5 lesions when I started. Well, it's questionable, but they changed the MRI machine that they use for me, so they've seen more, but I don't believe that they're new. I believe that they were there before. So I have not, my disease hasn't progressed. And when I was diagnosed, there were 3 medications that you could take to slow the progression. Today there's like 25 or 26 different, and they're much stronger. But there's a lot of options for people who get diagnosed today versus, when I was diagnosed, or even 10 years before that, where there was nothing.
Have you ever had an MS-related scare experience while you're actually in motion riding a motorcycle?
Yeah. Is my wife here? No. When I get overheated, basically, and this happens with a lot of people with a lot of different chronic illnesses, but with neurological issues. So there's a bad solder joint in my brain. That's what MS is. It attacks it's autoimmune, and your body thinks you have a virus. So it's looking for the virus. It doesn't find anything. It makes its way across the blood-brain barrier, and it looks at the myelin sheath, which is the insulation around the nerves, and it looks good. It looks like it's a virus. So it chews through the insulation. And once you've had a couple of those spots where it's chewed through, it may heal, but it may heal not quite perfectly. It's like, you had your Uncle Johnny solder together a couple of wires on your bike, and there's this big lump, and most of the time you put your blinker on, it works, but if the bike's overheating or stuff, sometimes that signal doesn't get through. That's MS. It's basically, I've got these holes in the insulation, and wires can cross and things like that.
Is it unusual for a MS patient to have the disease stopped from progressing as you?
Today, it isn't. Today, it's actually pretty common. People that get diagnosed when I was and newer, if they get on medication right away, it almost stops it or slows it down by 80–90%. It shuts it down, and that's the good news. There's still people that get diagnosed. They've tried every medication, and their body just keeps progressing. That still happens, but it's rare. I've done talks to 100 patients with MS, and there's 1 walker and 1 cane in the whole room. So most people today are doing pretty good. But there's issues. You can bowel, bladder issues, and other parts of your body that can be affected. A lot of people have balance issues or sight issues. They're still functioning, but it does affect people differently. And the heat effect, basically, when my body gets overheated, it doesn't send messages. So at one time I had an attack that bothered my leg, and I couldn't bend my knee. It was really weird. But there are times when I get overheated and that comes back. Because that little bit that healed, it didn't heal 100%. And so my brain says, lift your leg, that type of thing. And then when I get really overheated, I get stupid, you know, because my cognition is affected. So if I'm out chopping wood in the backyard in the summer, my wife said, you need to come in, you gotta overdo it, And then an hour later, I'm laying on the tile floor in the basement, like with my face against it, because I'm trying to cool off, and she's like, you want a drink? And I'm like, I want a drink, but I can't answer her. I'm like, I can't even make that decision. So, thankfully that stuff was temporary, the heat stuff. So what's happened is that there have been a couple of times where I've almost forgot to put my feet down and it stopped.
Do you use anything special to keep cool on hot days while you're riding?
I've tried quite a few different things, and for the amount of time I'm on the road, nothing really works. There's plenty of things that work for an hour or two, or that type of thing. I was involved with a company that was making a cooling system, and the prototype worked excellent. I was part of it. Well, I was the prototype tester, but the problem was it melted two of my stators. It was drawing about 25 amps. It worked great. When it went to production, they lowered it to 10 amps, and it just didn't, I couldn't tell it was working or not. And it just, you know, and then the company went out of business and left a lot of people with unpaid returns and things. So, but the prototype did work. It just wasn't. It was just sucking too much power. I've had the cooling systems with the pump and the cooler and all that, and it's great until the ice starts to melt. You know, and then the water's still going through, and it's like, is it working? And then it's clammy, and then you feel like you got a wet, you know, room temperature clammy shirt, and it's heavy, and it's, you know, like, yeah, oh yeah, I just put ice in it every 2 hours. I'm not going to put ice in something every 2 hours. I'm lucky I get gas when I'm supposed to.
Are you open to taking questions from the group?
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes?
I would like to know how big your tool bag is, because I saw those tools and I saw a small bag, and I don't think they all could fit in.
I can
Okay.
bring it in. It's about, actually, I was going to switch.
Bigger than a loaf of bread?
A what?
Is it bigger than a loaf of bread?
No. This might be dangerous, going through my photos. It's been a busy 2 weeks. I saw Willie Nelson. Almost. He's even wearing a Willie Nelson shirt. I saw Sticks. At the Buffalo chip. All right, what am I looking for? Tools. Before I left the house.
Did you give a talk out in Sturgis?
So, no, I didn't. I can't really see. Oh well, I thought I had. I'll bring it in. It's heavy, but it's about this big, about that thick. The tools, and then I have another pouch of repair stuff. And I carry a battery jumper now too. Which those things are great, but you gotta remember to recharge it. So every time I go on a long trip, I just look at it, and it's usually 1 bar down. I'm like, I haven't used it. So they do bleed off. But
You found a good brand that works?
I've had a couple, and then I had what am I using now? No-coat? They make batteries too.
I carry a no-code thing.
That's what I have now. The thing that bugs me about them is they have flashlight built in. I have flashlights. I don't need to carry a flashlight this big. But the button to turn the flashlight on is raised, so as it's bouncing around in your tool bag, it's turning itself on probably a million times, sending signals to space or something. And that's when you open it up and it's dead because it's turned itself on. So I glued a washer over that button so nothing hits it and roll. But I mean, why do they do that? They know people put this in a saddlebag. Not rocket science. But I've used it more on my lawn tractor than I have, and I did use it on my car once, but I don't think I've had to use it on the bike yet. But I know it works, and I don't carry around because they give you those big alligator clips with them. It's bigger than the unit. I threw that out. I just have a quick disconnect right from my battery. I can't charge somebody else's bike. Well, if I needed to, we'd figure out a way to do it. I'd cut the wires, but it's, I do try to compact my stuff. With this bike, I'm carrying a chain. I'm carrying chain cutter and a chain riveter because I've had 2 chains go on me in the road and then try to find a chain on a Saturday afternoon and that kind of things. I don't have the time to sit somewhere for 3 days and wait. I gotta get fixed. I gotta get back on the road. I don't want to be late to deliver my Aerostich stock. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What tires have you had best experience with?
Well, Bridgestone sponsors me, so I will say that I've had great luck with Bridgestones. They've been just like Aerostich. They've been from the very beginning. They've been, how can we help you? What do you need? And they send me tires, and I use their AX, which is an off-road tire. I use right now I have their AT41s, and then their A41s is what I've been using on all the Tenerés and stuff like that. And, I've had no issues with them. I get good mileage out of them. But I know there's a lot of other stuff out there. I just haven't had experience in the past 12 years with anything else. So, yes, sir.
Do you have some favorite roads in America?
All of them. What's fun about having short-term memory loss is I can take the same road there and back. And go, look at that! I can also watch the same movie a month later and oh my God, I can't believe he died in the end. I love out west. I'm from New England, so being able to see the horizon is awesome. And I was in the Badlands 2 days ago and Custer yesterday, and just I love out west. I love Northern California. There's just beautiful roads everywhere, and even I love riding the highways. The highways out there are not the highways here, which is why I'm probably going to go up and go through Canada to go home because it's about the same distance, and I learned to speak Canadian. So I got that Rosetta Stone British Columbian edition.
Do you like things like the Dragon? Do you like things like the Dragon?
In the winter,
In the winter?
in the rain, I've done the Dragon. Other than that, yeah, well, there's nobody there.
This is true.
There's no cops out in the rain. You go as fast as you want. I've done it a few times at the last few years, but I go right by there a lot. There's a lot of other roads around here that are actually just as nice and less traffic and less people coming at you the wrong way. Even Needles Highway yesterday, it gets really narrow and everybody's coming at me in the middle of the road. It's like, hello, I'm not going over the edge.
Have you ridden Highway 1 here? Off of 61, illegally?
I wouldn't know, but probably.
Not a lot of nice twisties in it.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't know what road I took to get here. 35, maybe. That would be a guess. And then there was some other smaller roads, but if I don't look at my phone, I won't remember what they were tomorrow. So people ask me all the time, like, I have no idea. I just drove across the entire country. I don't remember if I took 80 or 90 or 40 or whatever.
Are you camping sometimes and moteling at other times, or all?
I have not camped since the bear attacked my Cremora container. I woke everybody up, which was 14 years ago with my granddaughter. No, I'm typically in hotels, and Yamaha has been sponsoring me, and they, wherever I go that they're doing events, they put me up, hotel and food and everything else. And so I accumulate enough points over the year to, like last night and tonight, it doesn't cost me anything to stay the Marriott places. I probably stay 25 nights a year for free, so. And my days are long, camping, I get it, and I think if I had to, I would do it. But, you gotta stop at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and go look for firewood and, some animal to kill and put on a stick and all that stuff, so. Yeah, it's, most of my days are, I've gotta be here, I've gotta be there, it's pushing it, and, the miles are for MS, I'm not supposed to be having fun. Yes, sir.
Paul, do you have any other bikes besides the Tenere in your fleet?
I do not. I did have a Tracer that Yamaha gave me at Christmas, but it was earmarked for fundraising for the charity I work with. So I had it, I put a few thousand miles on it. But it was really weird having 2 bikes in the garage, because I'm on one bike. I can't remember when I'm supposed to change the oil on this, and to have 2 bikes, trying to figure out, it gets confusing. I can't remember what bike I did what to, or where the wiring is, and everybody says, well, what happens when you break down? You be able to get your other bike. I said, if I break down, I'm going to be nowhere near my house, so I got to leave a bike somewhere, fly back, get the other bike, then do what I was supposed to do. Now I have 2 bikes out where I'm supposed to be. It just doesn't work, Luckily, it hasn't happened in the last 10 years for an issue like that. But I would probably, buy something else or get, figure it out, get another bike. And then I'd have 2 bikes. Well, thank you all for coming. And so the MS 5000, if you want to sign up for it, that's a great way to help support. And even if you don't ride, or you could sponsor one of the other riders that are doing it. But you basically collect money from your family and friends and tell them what you're doing to ride as many miles as you can for MS. So this is our 10th anniversary of the MS 5000, so it's raised usually around $25,000 to $30,000 every year goes to the MS charity I work with. So it's been a great event, and you don't have to show up anywhere. It's not like everybody's doing something. Everybody's wherever they are, just riding to work, just counting miles and keep a record of your mileage. So that's a good way, or you can donate on the website also. So.
Paul, for 2023, is there any bike that you got your eye looking at besides the Yamaha?
It'd be hard to. I look at everything. I love motorcycles. I like, riding anything is fun to me. So I think there's a lot of cool bikes out there, but even like Yamaha wanted to know if I wanted to get a new one of these, and the new one doesn't really have enough stuff on it that I really care about, and I think it's cool. I'll try to put more miles on this bike, and I'll ride it till it breaks. So it's been fine. I've had no issues with it. It's got 156,000 on it. So I'm happy with it.
Good.
One more.
So of all the bikes you've ridden, which have you found the most comfortable personally?
It's funny, once I start riding a new bike, I completely forget about the other bike. Like, I don't know how to run the stereo or this and that. I do know, like, when I built the Tracer, I had to deliver it. The guy who won the raffle lived in Arkansas. And so I had to ride it to his house. So it was the longest ride. I did 2 800-mile days or something with it. And I was sore. I'm like, I missed my Tenere. I got it set up just right. The seat's perfect. I can do all day long, 12, 14, 16 hours, and I'm not sore at all. But I was sore on the Tracer. And I had a custom seat too, but it was just, I probably would have had to do some more things, raise the bars back, change the seat angle was a little bit off. I could make it better, but and I think I've done that with most of the bikes that I've owned, doing long distance anyway, is make them so they're completely comfortable. Sometimes it's raising the bars, a millimeter changes where it hits you in the middle of the back after 6 hours. You get that pain. just doing that sometimes makes all the difference. So it's fine tuning it, getting that windshield just right so you can, you know, see over it, but yet it doesn't knock your head around. Sometimes that little fine adjustments makes all the difference when it's 6-7 hours down the road.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.